All right. So with that, I'm very excited to hand this over to Vincent, who is the head of his company and is going to be telling us a little bit more about what he is working on.
Thank you, Jessica. Great to be here. My name is Vincent van den Tol, and that's a Dutch name. I'm from the Netherlands, living in Haarlem. That's close to Amsterdam, and it's about midnight here, so I try to speak a bit soft, not to wake up my family. Yeah, I'm the founder of imedu. That's short for immersive education. So if you remember that, then you also pronounce it correctly. And it's a company that I started about 1.5 to 2 years ago. Of course, it was also ignited by the pandemic and kids being at home, but also I was looking for something to do with education. And because I like technology, I was also looking around at new developments. And what was happening, of course, is what we still see is that a lot of education is being pushed online, not only due to pandemic, but at least here in the Netherlands, we also see teacher shortage, but also blended learning is very hot. All kinds of initiatives to introduce 21st century skills and digital skills. So we throw all these online applications to students and we think, okay, let's just give them a video or a text, or maybe some sort of small quiz, and then it's fine. But what you see is these kind of things are way too passive, and we need basically a different channel for some of these activities that are much more active and that you can learn in a much more non-abstract way. And I think that is where virtual reality, or virtual worlds as we see it, are a great way to introduce. So I started experimenting with that, and basically what I had a startup before, and what I always learned when you're building something new, when you're in a new field, the best thing you need to do is you need to experiment, which is always a bit strange. I don't know how it is in the education in the US or in other countries, but in the Netherlands, schools want to do, like, they always speak about experimenting a lot, but in the end, they don't have time and they just want something that is ready-made and they can use. But that's not what's going to work. We need to actually experiment. And we cannot experiment easily because we cannot say, okay, this generation of students is going to be the guinea pigs. And if it doesn't work, well, bad luck for you. But the next generation knows how it works. So we need to do that like well planned and together with schools and educators. But you need a tool. And I saw there were some developers in this meeting, and we were talking already about Unity. And as you know, developing a learning experience in virtual reality can be a lot of work. That's not a way to experiment, to get budget, to build something for 3 or 4 months and then try it out. Also, you want to be able that the teachers or the educators can be involved, that they can also design, that they can experiment. You want to have something that everybody in the school can use, so all the people in the class can use. Not only if you have 2 or 3 headsets, but everybody should be able to work with that. So that was a bit of like the idea. And if we start from there, then if the technology evolves, we can make that better. So that's why we started basically with WebXR or WebVR, 2D VR, depends on who you talk to, how people call it. But it's basically like a game on your laptop in a virtual world where you navigate, you can interact with content and with other people. So you're an avatar, and I will show you in a moment. Maybe share my screen. I think I can. I think you can see this one. Let me know if you can see it. By the way, if you have a question, just raise your voice. You can do it in the chat, but I'm not sure if I can. I will keep up with that, but or you can wait till the end, whatever you want. But this is a virtual world, and this is a world that's running in my browser. So it's just an URL, and I can go in there, and I can use my mouse and my keyboard to walk around. I can interact with objects. This is a presentation which I can view. I can also open other websites. This is a Google Slides website, for example. So I can collaborate with other people. I can add like art or other pictures. There's a way to add videos, which you can play. So let's see if it works.
Thanks.
So we can all watch a video here. And there's other ways to include all kinds of content. So I will tell you later how that is done. And what we try to do is to, first of all, help teachers to make this sort of worlds for their students. But the world is only as good as the purpose. So it's not only about having this room here or this location here. You also need to have a learning plan. You need to have content, and that's where we're going with our platform. So, like I was saying, we were looking for a solution that is accessible, no low code, inclusive. So that's why we started with the WebXR on the laptop. And we are looking for ways to actually help people or teachers or educators to use virtual reality. And up to now, we have defined 6, let's say, learning methods, which are like the things you can do in virtual reality. And we help teachers to make these kind of experiences and to think about this kind of experiences using our platform. Now, this is about the slides. I want to show you what the product is and how you can use it. Basically, what you see here is our application, like our management application. So, like I said, we want to be able to set up spaces easily and organize them. So that's a very important part of the product. That means that you, first of all, have to create your learning space. So I have my own collection of learning spaces here. And all these things, for example, this one. This is a learning space where you can learn about ecosystems. It's an underwater world. And there's a learning method that's called before and after. So you visit the world before and after. And as you can see, there's all kinds of instructions for students. There are learning goals, there are preparations, there are tasks, and there are teacher instructions. And that's very important because we think this is actually what makes virtual worlds suitable for education, because you add like a purpose to this space. When you have a space, you can set them up yourself. And we make that very easy. First of all, before you set up yourself, you can also share. So maybe other people in your organizations could have made spaces. So you can also look there and you can show some details and then you can copy them. So that's a way to, in a school or in an organization, to share learning spaces with each other. And we provide some examples and we're building more and more. This can give you inspiration, or sometimes you can just use them directly. It can be an escape room, can be a role play, can be a sort of a puzzle kind of environment, all kinds of things. How you make a space is basically like I said, we provide all kinds of templates. So for example, this is an architecture gallery, and you can say, okay, show me the details. You can see all kinds. As you can see, there's a small lesson plan here, and you can use this as a starting point for your space, or a breakout room, or an island expedition. So basically, just select it, then it creates this virtual world. It has a name. Here you can set the description, all kinds of properties you can set. You can edit the lesson plan. So for example, you can also edit some tasks to do, and you save it, and then it's done, and then you can use it. And then you have your virtual world. And for example, I just go in. And as you can see, I'm all alone. So there's no students here. I'm just being a teacher or an educator, setting up a learning space that I want to use later. So first I'm going to, you can see there's a classroom, which I have the key. So I'm going in, I'm going to set everything up for tomorrow. When I enter the world, there are some audio settings. That's the same for students. And then I enter the space. There are a few things about the space, because navigation, all these kind of things, I will not go in. There's a way to set an avatar, for example, and a certain name. By default, we work anonymously, so students just can choose their own name and their own avatar. That's because we work a lot with primary schools, and we don't actually want to store all this data. It's more about the students finishing the experience for in this case. We can work with logins, and then you can also have more reports about what everybody did. But by default, it's anonymous.
Vincent, for the buttons I see on the bottom, quick question.
Yeah.
When I see the things like place and react and chat, do students get to see that, or is that just for teachers to see?
That's all depending on what you want. You can set those permissions. So when you set up a space like this, first of all, you want to, of course, add your content. So then you use it yourself. So for example, you want to place a 3D model. There's a library included. You can find another shark maybe. And you can just look it up. And then it loads into the room. You can scale it, as you can see. I'm not sure, there's some technical people here. If you know a product called Mozilla Hubs, it's basically the open source software that we use for this virtual world. But we changed actually a lot about it. But then you'll see that it works the same. But this is a way how you can actually include extra objects in your space. But there's also a way to, for example, drag in articles. So in our backend, you can make sort of a content library. And if you did that, you can just simply drag them in. And then you get a document that opens up with explanation. This situation is a video. Oh, sorry, it's a text, but it can also be a video, for example. Which then plays. And we also have quizzes that you can do. I'm not sure what quiz this is. Oh, it's a Dutch quiz, sorry. I will get you another one. I think this is English. Yeah, so this is a quiz that you can start and people can answer them and then you get some feedback on what you do. These quizzes can be used to make escape rooms. I'll show you another example. For example, you can say, hey, if you want to leave this space and go to the next one, for example, the next world, then you need to finish the quiz before you can go. But the thing is that, like I said, you just drag in all these objects and these panels, and then you fill this space. There's other tools also included. You can share your screen, like any other application. So it's just my screen, as you can see. There's also a way to share your webcam. I'm not sure if that works because we're also in Zoom. Let's see. It works, okay. So all these tools are just there. And as you can see, maybe you see it light up. You see these blue squares on the walls. And those are actually like predefined media frames, as we call them, like standard locations where you can actually easily like attach content, and then it just fits to the size. So in this situation, it's a bit it's a bit weird to put myself on the boat. But for example, if you have museums, for example, you can imagine that it's very easy to fill a museum with pictures or with movies or documents. Let me see, there's something in the chat. That's a question. Yeah, I'm navigating with the keys. So AWSD mouse. And yes, I think it's indeed, we are trying to be a creator platform, educator platform. That's correct. So we don't have a library of like ready-made content. It's just we help you to build it, and we also help you to share it with your organization. So once I've built this space, so now let's assume I just added all these objects and other stuff. Then it's time to invite my students. So I go to my schedule, and I can schedule a class. For example, and I call it ecosystems 101. I select the space. So I go to my library. I can say when it opens, like 5 minutes before or at the time. I can select the date. So let's do it tomorrow. And I can give some instructions, and there's a pin code to protect it with. Now, then this page here is like the invitation page, and I can send an invitation to everybody, similar as Teams or Zoom or any other application with a link and a PIN code. And as you can see, you cannot enter it at the moment. You need to wait before the class starts. So that's also something that we think it's important also for educators that it's a safe environment, because you want to know that only the people that are actually invited enter the space or the room, and not everybody with a link. That's always a risk with WebXR, because it's a link everybody can access. You need this kind of protection. Yeah, so I think that's, let's say that's very high level, the basics. So first you create a space, we have templates. We also allow you to build more complicated spaces. For example, you can add as many locations as you want. So you can say, hey, we're going to start in the cinema, and I have a lesson plan where we then need to go to a space station, and maybe there's also a project room involved. So you can build very complex spaces with different locations, and by adding them here, wait a minute, can this go? If you add different spaces to your location, you can see this is in the space. A student always has a navigator, so that's like a virtual tablet, and they can use that to jump to other locations. And so it's like a personal guide for them while they're doing the class. So there's some tasks that they can track. There's some instructions, there's some help, but there's also a way to jump between different locations.
Vincent, I have a question here.
Yeah.
How much it is? How much do you sell it for? How much do you, for example, is it by participant, or how do you do that?
We sell it, well, we have packages. We have a SaaS application, so you pay per month, and we have packages based on the number of classes that you organize. So right now, this is me. I can show you so you can see the avatar, and you can imagine that if you had more people, and then you can see yourself and you see other people and you can talk to each other. But like as an educator, you can always go in your spaces. That doesn't really matter. You just you can do it as much as you want. But as soon as you schedule here, you schedule a class. So this one, for example, is one class. And on our website, there are different packages. And yeah, I think for the lowest package, I think you can organize 5 or 6 classes a month. And then it scales up. Does it answer your question?
Yeah, it answered my question, but you know what? I'm also a small business, but I'm looking on, if I'm going to use this one, I was thinking just creating my own space.
Yeah.
But how will I monetize that if it's by, because I have a subscription,
Yeah.
but when they subscribe on the website, they can choose whatever it is. And how can I do it by the head, by person? How do I do that?
Yeah,
I like what you're doing. Yeah, I like
that's actually something like, this is the basic. We have a lot coming up, and also we're also doing some things in the background. So one thing we're doing is we're working with let's say a Dutch sports organization, and they normally go visit schools, and they bring a video and some flyers and some other stuff about doing that sport. And but they want to have a different experience, so they also want to let students go into a virtual world. Actually, it's about diving, so they've set up this underwater world, and now they not only show them a video, but they also give them an access code, like a link and a password for a virtual class on our platform. And that's done via tickets. So in this case, they are paying us because they use it as sort of marketing. So they buy these tickets from us, and they can hand it out to schools, and schools can use a ticket to like visit the space. So it's like sort of hey, you take your class on a field trip, and you pay with a ticket. So that's actually the first step. And the next step, we want to have like an e-commerce site where if you as a creator build something cool, that you can put it on a marketplace, and then you can actually say, hey, you can buy a ticket for this place, and you don't need to interact with me, just do it via the platform. And then people buy a ticket online and they get access for 1 day. But
Yeah,
I wish we were there, but
I will wait for that e-commerce.
okay.
On Zoom.
I like it.
But it's good to hear that you like that, because that's a confirmation that we're on the right track there. Yeah.
I was thinking something similar with how this could be linked with something like Teachers Pay Teachers, where, you know, a teacher could develop like a really wonderful lesson plan with all the kinds of activities and have it built up there. And if there was a way that you'd be able to integrate it with a site like that, which I don't know if you know Teachers Pay Teachers, because I'm pretty sure it's just US based, but it's a really huge site where a lot of teachers will go and get different kinds of lesson plans and activities and ideas, and they pay the other teachers directly for that.
Yeah, I think we were thinking basically of you can earn a class if you share your space. So if you build something cool and another teacher uses it, you get more credit to use the platform. We were thinking about those kind of things. Yeah, that's actually very good. But yeah, I think in the Netherlands, all the teachers like to share stuff freely. I think they also agreed on something like that. But of course, we need to find a way to make sure that the platform keeps running. But yeah, I see a question. How long has it taken to bring imedu to its current state? Yeah, I think about a year and a half. I think first half year was a lot of talking to people, experimenting with, but basically Mozilla Hubs at the time, and then identifying the gaps. Then we built this whole management application. We built the spaces, we built the templates, we removed a lot of stuff, built a lot of stuff. So let's say a year and a half. I think for the future, the next step we're going to do is add more gamification. So I don't know how about time, but we also have another adventure, which I can show you, that I think is basically one of the best applications, also for schools, because it's more like a self-learning application. It's this one. And this was actually done like sort of a demo with a instructional designer. And it's a space where you learn about 3D design. So how do you scan like a model, and then how do you print it using a 3D printer? And how do you apply it for, in this case, medical purposes? So we made up a story about that you're sort of a cadet on a medical ship in the future, or maybe now. And you need to follow a training. And and you need to complete a different kind of room. So as you can see here, we start on the bridge, but there's a scanning lesson, then there's a manufacturing lesson and an application lesson. And as you can see, those are locked. So I cannot click on the manufacturing or the application. I can only go to the scanning room. So I will show you later, but so in this case, you need to walk around, and then there's a robot over here, and you can click on this.
Yes, thank you so much for
audio
activating
file.
my audio channels. For some reason, I could not fix it myself.
No, I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it's giving you like a storyline that you need to complete the course. And then there's a, let's say here, there's a door where you can go to your first, let's say, lesson. Or yeah, it would be, if it was a book, it would be a chapter. Yeah, and this is like a room where you can learn about different types of scanning. So there's laser scanning, there's photogrammetry, and there's MRI scanning. So there's always like a monitor with information. And here you can see we use those panels that I showed you before. And there are some 3D models that help you to understand it better. And then in this room, there are some assignments to think about. And in the next rooms, we will work with those assignments and then think about how to, for example, this is a patient that was missing a part of his skull. So you need to scan like what is missing. You need to, in the next room, you need to print from a different material that part of the skull that you can reuse. And then the final part, we explain how it was solved in the real world. Now, and then the question is, of course, you want to go to the next room. So, and then here's a quiz. And it's actually quite hard, so I'm not sure. Okay. As you can see, I just clicked it. I know because with this quiz, you can always, I don't know if I have the rights. no, I don't have rights here, but you, as a creator of the space, you can set some rules for the quiz. In this case, I know that if you do it twice, you will always get the link to the next space. So, and now I can continue to the next room. So that's a way to like gamify your experience along with the storytelling. And then here's another room where you can learn and have another quiz to follow through the next. So, and that's why I started, that's what we want to focus on more. So like I said, we have this kind of tasks here. So we also want to link these tasks to doing specific things in the spaces. We want to add things like badges or leaderboards in some cases. Yeah, we have all kinds of cool ideas to like gamify this this experience, and yeah, that offers really a lot of like design tools for people to add. And for example, you can also think about, like in games, if you want, you can go to the end boss directly if you're strong enough, or you think you're strong enough. So if you know everything about 3D design, why not go to the last final quiz directly? And if you're not so strong in this topic, you might decide to go first, visit few of these rooms and learn a bit more. So it opens up all kinds of yeah, teaching methods that you can integrate and make self-learning experiences.
Albert had a few questions, I think, in the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe there was a question about software, but yeah, basically we build our own software, and for the virtual platform, we open source, which is a package that you can use and you can build your own client. So we added a lot of stuff to the client to make it more workable. If you want to know more, then you can contact me. I'm happy to explain. The spaces, do students share the space concurrently? Not sure if I understand it correctly, but the thing is, you as a teacher, you're in control who uses the space. So you can say, I open it up for a whole day. So then students can just go in whenever they want. Or I can say I have a specific hour, or I can, if you use it in the class, so we just have a video first, and then we go, I don't know, look at a heart animated in 3D for 10 minutes and then jump out again. So you really control that. It is social, so they hear each other. It's a spatial audio, so if you move further away, it's hard to hear each other. We can also make sort of sound boxes. So if you're in a certain location, you can either be heard everywhere, or you can say people in this room cannot be heard outside. So there's a lot of, let's say, tools to do that. And that's also, again, the challenge. And maybe that's a good thing to show you as the last part before we go into questions. If you want to design a space, it's quite a lot of work to get to the end. For example, first you need to design 3D models, which is basically done in a tool like Blender, which can take months to master good enough, or years, even if you want to learn everything. Then you need to configure your world. So like I said, you need to set this audio settings. You need to set like, where do people come in? You maybe want to add some animations. So that's another step. Then you need to import them into our backend. Then you need to add content like I showed you. So presentations, write a lesson plan, and then you can finally schedule some students. So this is a lot to do and too much basically. So we try to reverse it. So we say, by providing lesson plans and examples and templates, you can start actually almost at the end. So you start with the space, you only fill the content and lesson plan, then you can start. If you feel more comfortable, you can maybe find some other worlds on public libraries, or you also have other people making worlds or scenes or objects. So you can start changing the worlds or making your own. And if you're really enthusiastic, then you can even start designing 3D. But this is the way I think we want to approach it. So not start with the basics and then having to spend like 1 year to get there, but start at the end and see how far you want to go back. And finally, I think if you see how we work with schools, maybe that's also a good thing to do. first of all, we have some talks where we show people the application and so that they understand what they can do with it. And we hope to inspire them to use virtual education for their schools, for the universities. But then a very important step is that people need to feel safe and in control. We tend to forget that, especially if you're gaming or if you, like me, work a lot with these platforms, you know how it works. But we saw that a lot of people who are not familiar with this have a lot of questions like, is my camera on? Can people hear me? Can they see me? What happens if I press this button? If I leave, can I get back? So all these like very basic questions is very important for a teacher to be able to feel confident in that space and to invite students. And what we see is that a lot of people trying out our platform, are still a bit stuck in here. So that's why we starting out with workshops as a more personal, let's say, help to train people there, because it's very important. Let's say if you're building a space and you're inviting your people, you need to feel in control, like you feel in control in your classroom. And if that is done, then you can start like this typical design, build, execute, and evaluate kind of cycle where you improve on every iteration that you do. Okay.
Last question, maybe. What is your website?
Sorry, I keep on sharing my screen. Can you still see me if I share my screen or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not that common. I can see.
Okay, this is some contact details if you want to know more. In June, as part of this, like say, helping people to use the platform, we're also starting a free designer workshop. So it's not really there's not a date yet, but if you follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter, or follow the newsletter, or just send me an email, then I'll make sure that you get notified if you're interested. And it will be like a webinar, probably once a month. Let's see how it goes. Where we'll just let people know how to create spaces and exchange some tips and experiences. That will help you.
Thank you. That's great.
Vincent, I put a question in here about like are teachers and classes, are they already using it? And if they are you collecting data and doing research on how well they learn? Or, how did you, I guess, and then another question would really be like, how did you design it in terms of what research did you use to figure out how to configure this?
Well, we started with looking at VR and application and what were the good things about virtual reality. And I think it's a bit about this one. This is I think it's the cone of experience. Sometimes it's used by people who say that, hey, you need to do stuff more because you remember better than if you're only using abstract things like text. I'm not sure if that is actually so true, and I read some things that might also be a bit more complicated, but I think the good thing about virtual reality is if you look at an online situation, that most online is still a bit abstract, and video is already getting closer, but with virtual reality you can really engage students better, and you can also experience them and be far more close to the real world, or even a fantasy world, because you can become very small or very big. You can visit the stars or that sort of thing. So we started with that idea, and then we just started experimenting with schools. So I think we did over 100 classes with students by now, and we just looked at what educators were looking for, and it started with, hey, I want to have a virtual classroom with benches and students would sit there and I would give a presentation. And that's the most stupid thing you can do, of course, in virtual reality, because it doesn't add anything. But it's like a natural process that you need to go through and understand, okay, what does work. And we see teachers using, we have now 2 schools using it in the Netherlands. And we have a lot of like free trial experiments from all over the world. I think also in total a bit more than 120 trials, I think, in this year, from Indonesia, from South America, from the US, all kinds of people. But the schools that we have now, we work closely with, are using it for for home assignments. So instead of doing everything from a Google Classroom list, they put it in a museum or in a space, or they gamify it with some assignments to keep the students engaged and also to help them to do it better. They see that it can also help to remember things in a way that I sometimes I read sometimes that people who are very good at memorizing things use a thing called a memory palace, where they, let's say, if they need to remember a grocery list of 500 items, I don't know, then they just put everything in a specific location in their mind. And I think that might be some sort of a similar process. I'm not saying that this is science, but it's for some reason easier to remember, like, hey, that topic was outside, or this was inside, and it's easier to find back where things were, or to relate it to each other. And so we got some positive feedback there. And also for engagement, it's very popular. But also in the class, they're using it. If they have teacher shortage, they can now, you can actually prepare a class, and then they can set up, like say 1 or 2 classes with students, and have one supervisor who doesn't have to be a licensed teacher, but just can help with operating the system. And that's also what they're using it for. So you see quite broad applications.
And what percentage, I guess, of the students are in headsets, and how many of them are working on this from desktops?
No headsets, because we
okay.
we could do headsets, but some, like say, we are quite limited with features then also, because you cannot do anything with 2D content, or very complicated. And also the thing is, you can have a few headsets in class, but then it's like an experience for 10 or 15 minutes, and then the next one has to go. And because here you're working a lot with other applications, and I know in the schools we have here, there's so many online applications they use for all kinds of things, and it's much easier to just be on a laptop and switch between.
It's really hard to read in VR.
Exactly.
Of course.
Very hard.
That's true. Yeah.
So maybe in the future, I mean, if somebody wants to do it, of course we can build it. But I think for this purpose of setting up a library, this is much easier, and it works on Chromebooks. So.
Oh, that's yeah. Thank you. It's really impressive. Really good.
It actually reached out to Robin. Robin does really cool stuff in VR, including work with art museums and other places, and other in kind of informal learning institutions as well. And she does amazing things. And in addition to being one of my favorite people, I would see this as I could see this platform, continuing to grow, excuse me, beyond being used in kind of formal education. I could totally see this being a kind of a platform for, I don't know, different kinds of art collections, or trying to set a mood for something, or I guess you could say that could be an art history class, but I could definitely just see it growing in a lot of directions. So I wanted Robin to come and see it too, so that she would know what I was talking about next to my eye. I told her about it.
Yeah. I would have been here at 6 o'clock, but I couldn't get off. Another call was like dragging on and on. So thanks for the reminder, Jessica. I got there as soon as I could. Yeah, because this is really, there's education. It's such a broad topic, and a lot of times it's really focused more on, on medical applications or various kinds of things. But this is much more, like school, classroom, student, teacher, and obviously designed for lots of different kinds of teaching. So are you all putting all of the content in right now at the moment? You're developing, Vincent, all the content for the class.
We're making worlds. So we try to think about themes that can be reused for different applications. That's sometimes easier for, let's say, primary schools, because then you can make a farm, or you can make an island, or you can think about all kinds of content. We're also talking a bit about professional training. I'm not sure how I think that might be more custom work, to be honest. But so we build these worlds. we also work with instructional designers to make examples because we don't claim to be the people that know how to teach. We know a lot about technology, and of course we try to understand teaching, but ideally we would work with an instructional designer or a teacher and let's say, okay, identify what they want to do. And yeah, maybe I can show you, like, this is something I wanted to show today, but this wasn't finished, but maybe that's interesting to see where we want to go. So this is basically a test version that you're looking at now. And what we want to go is that if you now start a space, that instead of like starting with a form where you can put everything yourself, we start with like what kind of things you want to do. So one of these 6 learning methods that we have identified. And then you say, I want to build a virtual field trip. And then you get all kinds of templates that we built that are suitable for a virtual field trip. Maybe in the future, if we have more, we can add a search, and you select it. And then we force you to think about the learning goals, the student interaction, because it's very important to think about that and not just go in there. And then you create your space. And yeah, but the more we work with teachers, the more we can actually test and experiment, the more we can actually try to find blueprints that can be reused like this. Yeah. So yeah, and that's a bit like, to be honest, that's why it's taking a bit longer than I was hoping, because the education is very, very busy sector always, and it takes a lot of time, but that's okay. But I think it's very important to do it together and not be the tech startup that knows better and just tells everybody, hey, this is how it should be done. Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice.
Well, thank you so much. I realize we are reaching the very end point of our time. And I wanted to give like another minute or two. If anybody has any further questions they want to ask, either out loud or by chat, while we still have Vincent, but I know that it's now almost 1 a.m. for him. So
Okay.
Oh, right.
You have a question in the chat from Emma Jane.
Yeah, very good one. Not yet, but I know it's also why I like to work with the products from Mozilla, because it's a company that's very looking at making accessible and inclusive solutions. Yeah, for us, we are not there yet because first we're looking to organize this. But I would be very great if we can make this accessible. To be honest, I'm sometimes struggling a bit. Like I've seen, yeah, I mean, you need to have some sort of things, but I know there are devices for people with disabilities that they can use the keyboard. Maybe we can integrate with those, let's say, input devices in the future. Okay, there's a resource also. I'll check that. Thanks. Yeah, but yeah. Open source tool to create. The question is, do we have to create a lot of stuff? Well, the product itself, Mozilla Hubs, is great if you want to make virtual worlds for yourself, or if you want to have a tool where you can do, where you can invite people and you can upload models. It's already there. Basically, what we needed to build was an integration with our backend. We needed to build, like I say, locks on the spaces that people could not get in. And we needed to add some more configurations, let's say disable the chat, gather all the students in one place. We have this integration with the content library that you can drag stuff in there. This guide that you saw, so the gamification part, those are the things that we added basically. But like, so basic social VR is all in there. So I would definitely recommend to check it out. You can either go to the website, put it in the chat. And if you're a developer, you can also download their, oh, sorry, I put a direct message to somebody. And it's a great community also. There are also some educators in there that are working with that. And yeah, so let's say for pure sandbox, it's great to use. And of course, if you're interested in developing on this platform, also let me know. Because if Jessica can use you, then maybe we can to help us build this application.
Well, thank you so much. This has been incredibly informative, and I am going to put this recording on the VR and Ed meetup site. I'm going to do a better job about actually posting meetups for people. So I'm going to stop our screen sharing now, but stop the recording here.